Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel. I hope that you guys are having an amazing day today. In today's video, I am going to be doing eye swatches of the it's still new, it's been like a month and a half since this was released, but I will be swatching the Morphe 24A Artist Pass palette on my eyes. I did ask you guys on Instagram and I believe on YouTube. No, I asked you on Instagram if you wanted to see eye swatches of this palette or if it was just like too late, but 80% of you said that you wanted to see eye swatches, so that's what we're going to be doing today. And if you're not familiar with my eye swatching videos, what I'm going to do is take the entire palette, swatch it on my eyes without eyeshadow primer, and then for the shimmers I usually like to apply them dry, and then I apply a little bit of Fix Plus so that you guys can see the difference on how the shimmers look dry and wet. And with all of that being said, let's jump right into the video. It is really hot in this room because the air conditioning is broken and it was like 80 degrees in New Jersey today. Anyway, let's get started because I'm sweating. Alright, so I'm starting off with the first shade, which is All Access, and this one is just a white shimmery shade. So this is what that first eyeshadow looks like. It's really pretty. It's a very subtle shimmer, but it is a very pretty color. So I'm gonna take now a little bit of Fix Plus and wet my brush and go back into the shade, and we will see what it looks like with a wet brush. So here it is with the Fix Plus. As you guys can see, it definitely just brings out the color, the shimmer. It almost makes it look like a foiled eyeshadow. It is a very beautiful color, so it's just personal preference if you guys prefer the shimmers a little bit more intense like this, or without the Fix Plus and a little bit more subtle. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I love this color. I feel like this shimmer is definitely a little bit more intense than the first one on a dry brush. But again, I will apply a little bit of Fix Plus so we can see the difference between what the eyeshadow looks like wet and dry. Beautiful. The Fix Plus definitely brings out that shimmer, that foiled look. So it's beautiful both ways. Again, personal preference if you prefer to apply the shimmers dry or wet, but let's move on to the next two. So I'm moving on to the third one, and the third one is a glitter. I do like the silicone brush better for glitters, but you can do it with a regular brush as well and it will look beautiful regardless. But anyway, this is that third eyeshadow. I really like this color. I believe I used this one in one of the eyeshadow looks that I did in my last video, but anyway, let's move on to the next one. I love this color so much. It's just such a beautiful purple, very subtle, just a very pretty color. You can use it for all over the lid. You can use it as a transition color. You can use it for whatever, but it's just a gorgeous color. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the second row, which is also going to be a matte. So I'm going to swatch it on the other side. So here is this color, and I think it's a pretty color, but it is very subtle. So I would say for the lid, I guess you could use it, but it's very subtle. So it's like, even though it's on my lid, I don't know if I like the way that it looks against my skin tone. So I would probably use it as a transition color, but it is a very unique shade. I don't think I have this shade in my collection or in any of like my palettes or anything, so it is a very unique color. So let's move on to the next one. And here is this one, and I have to say this is one of my favorite colors from the entire palette. I just think it's such a beautiful color. It reminds me of like a desert camel type of color. I don't know, it's just beautiful, and it's actually called Desert Vibes, and it definitely has a resemblance to the sand in a desert. So I don't know, I just love the way this color looks. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Okay, and here is this one, and this is the darkest brown in the entire palette. It's actually one out of basically just two browns, and at first when I got the palette, I was a little bit like taken aback because I wanted the brown to be more of a rich brown and pulling a little bit more warm. I didn't understand why they went with a purple undertone type of brown, but once I got to playing with the palette, the colors in the palette, I could understand why they did what they did. This color goes very well with the other like neutral tones from the palette. It just ties the palette actually really nicely together, so I am not mad at it. I was, but I'm not anymore. So yeah, as you guys can see, it's almost like a purple undertone and brown, but I really like it. Let's move on to the third row. I love this color, and it is very similar to the second color that we swatched. The only difference is that the first gold that we swatched, which was the second eyeshadow, was more of a cool toned gold, and this is a warm tone gold. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, so here is this color, and this is another one of my favorites from the palette. It is just beautiful, so just it just reminds me of like Space Mermaid. It's just beautiful by itself. I can picture this also going over top of another eyeshadow as a topper and just giving that eyeshadow, you know, more of that like holographic vibe. I don't know, but it is just a beautiful shimmer, and this is on a dry brush, so I will apply a little bit of Fix Plus so that we can see the difference. But as you guys can see, this one does not need any Fix Plus. It's just beautiful just by itself, even with no primer. And here it is with the Fix Plus. It is even more beautiful. It definitely brings out more of that shimmer, but it doesn't really need the Fix Plus. Again, personal choice. however you guys prefer it. I think it looks beautiful either way. So let's move on to the next two. This one, honestly, it's cute, and if you want to use, you know, stars, it's perfect, but it's mostly for the big stars because you can't really see the glitter that's under it, and I don't want to put too much of this because it's really just a pain to take off. So I'm going to just kind of do this so that you guys can at least see what it looks like. So that's what that would look like. In my tutorial, I ended up applying the stars just to the inner corner of my eye, and then I brought them down a little bit. I guess you could apply it as an all over lid color, but they are pretty big stars. Having it all over the lid like this is very uncomfortable because the stars are pretty big. So when I'm opening my eyes, I can actually feel the stars like poking me, especially because I do have hooded eyes. When I used the stars in my last video, I only applied them to the inner corner, and I kind of just like feathered down one or two. I wouldn't recommend it for all over the lid just because they do feel very pokey, but it does look pretty if you wanted to do that and kind of like put up with the uncomfortable feeling of the stars poking you. It's up to you, but anyway, this is what that looks like. Okay, so here is this one, and as you guys can see, it is a beautiful color. The formula of this particular color is different from the other ones. This is more of like a cream. I don't know if you guys can see how I moved it around with the silicone brush. It doesn't crumble, so like you're able to be a little bit more tough when you put your brush in there, and you can definitely apply it with your brush. It's just, I feel like it just takes longer with the brush because when you dip your brush in there, the brush doesn't grab as much product. But again, you can definitely apply it with the brush. I just think it's a little bit faster and it goes on a little bit smoother with the silicone brush. As you guys can see, it's very subtle when swatching it, but I think that's because I don't have a primer on. I did use this eyeshadow in the previous video in one of the eyeshadow looks, and it looked completely fine. It was very pigmented, but because we don't have primer on today and my eyelid color is like paper white, it's barely there. But if you guys see my last video where I did an eyeshadow look with primer, it looked completely fine. But anyway, that's how it's swatching right now without the primer, so let's move on. Alright, so these are the last two colors in the fourth row. I'm gonna move on to the last row, which are going to be all glitters. Wish me luck because that's going to be very hard to take off every single time. So I'm going to try to apply the first glitter just with a brush so that you guys can see that you can do it with a brush. You can also use your finger, but since I've been using the silicone brush, I really do prefer the silicone brush. I just think it makes everything much easier. Okay, here is the pink glitter and it is so beautiful. All of the glitters in this palette are gorgeous and the formula is perfect. The glitter stays on all day, doesn't flake off. As soon as you apply it, it stays on. You don't have to fight with it. Like, it's just such a good glitter formula. You don't need to use glitter glue. It's just perfect. Okay, so here is the green, and again, it's just such a beautiful glitter. This one has a ton of different color glitter. It has like yellow, blue, green. It's just gorgeous. I used this one in my last video and I used it, I think, over a green eyeshadow, and it was just so beautiful. But yeah, this is the green one, and then the pink one more time. So here is this one. This is another one of my favorites because it has bigger chunks of glitter mixed in with the smaller bits of glitter, and I just love the way that it looks. I love the color. I love how I can put it over other matte eyeshadows, inner corner. There's just so much that you can do with this color glitter, and yeah, I just love the texture and how they incorporated the bigger chunks of glitter with the smaller bits of glitter. So anyway, we have 2 more left and we are done. I forgot to tell you guys, another thing that I really like about the silicone brush is the shape of it. You can really get into like the inner corners. You can flip it to the side and just like really get in those little areas that you can't get to with the brush. So that's another reason why I'm just such a big fan of the little silicone brush. Okay, moving on to the last one, which is the purple glitter. This is the last color in the palette. As you guys can see, it is a beautiful purple. It is a cool toned purple glitter, but it's beautiful, and like I mentioned earlier, the glitter formula in this palette is just perfect. You do not need glitter glue. You can apply it with your fingers, with the brush, with the silicone brush. It is your personal preference. Whatever you guys prefer will work just fine. But overall, I really do like the palette. You guys can check out my tutorials in the previous video that I uploaded where I created 3 different looks with the palette. Anyway, let me go take this off and I will be right back. So that was the entire palette swatched. I hope that you guys liked this video and found it helpful. Don't forget that you can follow us all over social media. I do have TikTok. I've had it for a little while, but I mostly do upload dog videos with Lola. She actually just went viral. Her video is about to hit 300,000 views. I don't know if that's considered viral, 300,000 views, but yeah, her video blew up on TikTok and I'm so happy for little Lola. But yeah, if you guys want to follow us on TikTok, it is at Glitter Beauties. And if you want to follow us on any other social media platform, it is at Glitter Beauties, the same way that is spelled right here. Also, if you enjoy this content and you want more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe before you go and give this video a big thumbs up. And even if you don't subscribe, I just appreciate you being here and watching. But thank you again, guys, so much for being here. And yeah, I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.